What's going
Ooh, you looking fancy. Ooh.
on? Hola, hola, hola.
Wow, sexy hair.
I'm still not done, child. I got
Can
half a.
you can you show it off? Can you do a little
Not yet. It's not fully there yet.
I love it. I think I saw Chimdi on too.
Yeah, I did too.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for joining, Ian's.
You looking good.
Yeah, I saw her on there.
Yeah, I saw her on there maybe. Telling you, I've been having a look at this hair. I got Mercury in retrograde hair.
You
Hey
reflect
y'all.
most? Is that what you're saying?
Mercury in retrograde hair.
I
How do you
somebody
like it?
like to hear.
It's windblown hair. Hey y'all. We're waiting for Chimdi to get on.
Yeah, it's cool. Appreciate you stopping by and saying hello.
Hey Samaya. She's our best fan. Yep, this is Eclipse hair, Chimdi. Get your ass on here. There.
Hey, guys,
Hey.
hit the request button.
Hit the request button. Come on in. Let me take my jacket off very slowly. It is retrograde hair. Samaya, look at this. What's going on?
Ooh,
What's happening?
yeah,
We got her.
yes. Pop on now.
Hi.
Okay.
Chimdi! Oh my gosh.
I have never requested, this is my first live where I've requested to join. Normally they just asked me to join. And so I didn't know what was going on. It's only happened one other time. So I didn't know what's going on, but I am here now.
Don't worry about it. I always have Frances start these because I just press the request button and she handles everything else. Otherwise, I feel like things can get twisted with me. I mean, look at my hair already, right? Like, look at.
One button. That's
It's full, it's full with the water of life.
Well, Chimdi, let me introduce you to Frances. I feel like you both have a lot in common because how I see you two is like the modern day Renaissance women, right? The
Okay,
true
girl.
auteurs, the true auteurs,
the one
where it's kind of
nice.
like, yeah, you can't pin you down, which is good, right? So it's like Chimdi is like a media mogul. She's a YouTube star, but now she has a podcast, but she's always part of like art collectives, but she's always traveling and you can't pin her down,
That's all
right?
true. That's
That's
all true. I'm like, yeah.
and that's the same as like Frances. She's like my colleague, but she's a therapist, but she has two podcasts. She was in Peru last week. Now she's in Boston. Next week she's gonna be in Dominican. I don't know,
Y'all know.
right?
No, we're out and let's flow. Flow.
You just keep the flow.
I'm just in flow. I'm moving.
That's beautiful.
So
How is being a licensed, I'm assuming licensed therapist, like how is that? Because I thought I want to do therapy, and then I didn't understand that when you build your own cup you can handle other people's stuff, but I was like, I can't handle every day somebody coming at me and with their intense trauma. Is that what it's like for you, and how is that?
yeah, the work. Yeah, it can feel like that. So I think especially in the beginning stages of my work, I burnt out. So I actually step away from the field because of the fact that I didn't know how to manage holding my own stuff, other people's stuff as well, and then
Mhm.
managing the systems at play too. So it was a lot, and I took a
Mhm.
while and then returned within my own way after I did my own work. And yeah, and new definition. Yeah, field.
What
Yeah, and
advice?
that's how
I
oh, I
was
was
just do
gonna
a quick
say
follow-up question, which is like, and then what advice? Because I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up becoming a therapist. What advice would you give to someone who is like curious or is getting started? Me,
Do your
maybe.
work. Do your own. That's the first thing. One of the things when I was transitioning into doing more coaching, and one of the things I heard a coach say, she always gets the question, and that someone always asks, like, how do I become a coach? Get a coach. So
Mhm.
do your own work. Yeah.
Beautiful.
and
Thank
and
you.
Chimdi, that's how her and I met because we met at this like wild ass retreat 7 years ago. And then we come together now after having the same mentor, the same coach
Oh,
in plant
beautiful.
medicine. and it has completely transformed like not only our lives, but like the work that Frances has been able to do is like clinical therapy, talk therapy only goes so far because like spirit is missing, right? Like there's the heart missing, there's a spirit, and like when you blend the two, there's such a grounding in it, right? Like there's such a grounding in the transformation, there's such a like integration in the practices or whatever. And so it's just wild how I met her 7 years ago at this retreat in California, just how I met you Chimdi in Costa Rica, and you kicked my ass in a card game, but we won't talk about that. There's just
I have moved on from that because winning is very normal to me. Sounds like you're still holding on to it, and that's maybe some of your work that you need to do.
Heels kind of hold on a little longer, you know.
Yeah, I don't like losing. It's not my best trait, is losing. But we'll get past that. I'll do some work. But that's exactly why I brought you on, because I just feel like her and I have been talking a lot about transformations and just like pivotal moments in people's lives, and like what turns them, what transforms them. And what I loved about one of your most popular videos on YouTube is like when you quit your job and you were so authentic about all of it, the rawness, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then you did an update because people are like, update us. And I love that part. And there's two things that I took from it. One was, this ain't easy. This path is not easy if you choose it. But another one that hit me that I think we all can relate to is like when you choose yourself and you choose your own path, you're finding your own algorithm, right? Like you're finding out how do I navigate this world without a boss, without somebody else telling me what to do. And to me, that's like the true path of sovereignty, right? Of like, how do I navigate like how nature wanted me to? And so I feel like that piece, I'm very interested for you, what you found in yourself in the last year, because it was a year since I met you. It was a year since you quit your job, and now you're doing all these things. So I kind of want to know that piece.
Well, you know, I was just re-listening to Thomas Hubel, who's like my main like person that I go to my spiritual journey. I'm doing like a 2-year program with him, and he references the Matrix. And apparently, there's a moment where, you know, of course, Neil's offered the 2 pills. And he's like, you know, one of these will make you free. And then he takes it. And of course, we saw the conditions of the world that he entered. And the person was like, I didn't say it'd be better. I said you'd be free. And I feel like that is a major, I don't remember that moment from the Matrix, but I feel like that is a major part, is that it's not, I think, and also it may not be better in terms of the outside, like how it looks. Like, you know, for a while I was like living in my sister's, like, you know, a corner of her apartment in the living room. So I didn't even have my own space. I'm so blessed now. Like I live a life where I have 2 roommates and I'm in a room and I'm just like, I can shut the door behind me. Like, have y'all heard of the luxury that is having your own space? Like, so I actually, every single thing, I feel like what I'm doing is I'm rebuilding my life from the bottom up and appreciating every single thing that I get. And I'm appreciating it because it's true. And I think that's the thing with this idea of the Matrix, right? Is that you've got this feeling in your stomach that something's not right, but everyone else is walking around like, okay, well, I guess this is what we do, because everyone also doesn't seem so happy either, but maybe this is just the way to do it. And then you blow that shit up, you know? And then you start from the bottom and you build it up. And then every single thing, the first client I got, the first like creative gig I got, every single, getting my own space where I pay the bills every month. That's basic life human shit. And I'm like, y'all, can we celebrate? Like, and I mean it. And people who are following my journey, they're like, congratulations. And I'm so happy. So I think that's been the last year, is one of starting from the bottom, thinking, if you hadn't quit this job, you know, you can always run back to LinkedIn and get a new job, like all those thoughts. And then those moments of fear, like no one's ever gonna, I do creative coaching. No one's ever gonna hire you to be their coach. No one's ever gonna pay you to do creative stuff. You can't, you know, all the stuff, right? And just consistently returning to myself, returning to that truth, that knowing, that intuition, listening it, following it, and then bit by bit, seeing life unfold around me and having it just be blessing after blessing after blessing. Yeah, I feel very humbled and very blessed.
think you start, let me reframe this. You know, I got my therapist hat. You're not starting from the bottom, right? You're not starting from the bottom. You're literally starting your crown, right? Because that's where all that came from. Like it's always been there. And I often think, you know, people are afraid of like the rebuilding process, right? And it's not to me rebuilding, reconnecting
Mm,
back to authenticity. So you're not starting from the bottom.
Yeah.
it's true. And that's
Yeah.
what I would tell myself when I wanted to say that. I'd be like, girl, you have a lot of resources. And I appreciate that.
Well, and I love it because I feel like you have this sense of gratefulness this time around. And also, you have to have a little bit of trust in the universe to be like catching you, right?
A little bit.
Because, and I think what I'm also curious about, and you can jump into with some questions, is like, what was the point at which you felt like you did have enough? Because I do feel like people get to a point where whether it's a job or whether it's lifestyle, whether it's just something not working, because you referenced the matrix, right? And so like I remember being at times, quote unquote, in the matrix where I was just like, wait, why does everybody look like a robot? Why does everybody act like this? Are we gonna act like this for the rest of our lives? But there's a moment in your own life where you're like, okay, I've had enough. I'm gonna do something different. Even if I'm gonna live in a box on the street, I don't care. I'm gonna live different. So like, I want to know like what was like a pivotal moment for you, or where you're like, I had enough, or whatever it was, whatever that moment was.
You know, I think it's the equivalent of, you know, straw breaking the camel's back, you know, one drop of water breaking the levee, where there were a number of things that each individually bothered me, and then they all grew. So I talk about in the video around like having a coworker who quit her job not long before I did, and then they being like, you know, you want to maybe just take on her workload and we're not going to give you any more money. And I was just like, you know, like on top of just it not being work that I was inherently passionate about. And then later as I think I had a sense then, and now I really have the sense that major change doesn't happen with legislation necessarily. That's powerful, but all those changes first happen in us. And then when we are ready to say, hey, it's a problem that people can get cancer and then they go bankrupt, maybe we should do something, and then it follows, but it's never outside in. So even then I was like, I don't think, because I was doing like education, leadership work, I was like, even then, this is powerful what we're doing, but I don't think this actually is the way to do it, really. All the way down to there being a fucking pandemic and people dying left and right and being like, okay, so if you died tomorrow, would you be happy with your choices? And feeling like truly everyone but that I never took a chance on myself and tried to be a full-time creative. So it was all these things, and they were building. And then I don't know if there was a single moment. And I think how I frame it is that it wasn't that I suddenly had enough, like had enough savings or had enough in terms of I had enough of this job or anything. I think it was a switch of, this will be enough. I'm gonna make this enough because I kind of get the fuck out of here. So, and I think that's the main thing I realized is that the material stuff for me didn't matter so much. It was fully when I, for myself, realized even if you had no savings, you have enough. You have resources, you have intelligence, you have a network, you have enough. Give yourself a chance. So that's kind of what comes up for me.
And I think that's what people find so inspiring about like your videos, because you're keeping them up to date on your journey. It's messy, it's wild, it's weird, it's fun, it's like all the things, right? But you're keeping it up to date on the realness of it. And to me, it's like living life like very loudly and out loud, like just in a different way. And I think I had some similar feelings with you in the beginning of 2020. There was a part of me that goes, there's a lot of noise out there, but the revolution isn't outside, it's in here. That's what I kept saying to myself over and over. And that's how I found our mutual mentor, because she said, be careful how the movement moves you. And I was like, God damn. And there was just so much noise. And I know when it gets louder out there, that is to do the opposite, which is like, again, the matrix. When it's louder out there and they're trying to shake you and rattle you, go inside, go inside. And so that was the best thing I could do for myself. It was very lonely, but it was the best thing I could do for myself. And then after that, I went to Costa Rica and was trying to tear shit up in a different way. So
I think even that idea of when it's louder out there, to like you're saying, because it is all internal. to me, that's the part of you, because the voice that's saying like, come on, we need to wake up, we need to shake, like, come, like that voice, it's, to me, it's gonna win. So, and it's persistent. And when it's getting closer and closer and closer to being realized internally, that's when the outside shit starts being like, this is crazy. Because, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on all of the time. And some people are like, another day. And some people are like, this is fucking crazy, you know? And I think it speaks to, are you fed up yet? Here? And then when you're fed up, that's when things change.
Good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I love that you mentioned that because I believe that every shakedown is a breakthrough coming in. So often we really dislike the conflict or the things that come up for us, but the things are like that. They're like the whispers. They're like the trying to wake you up to certain things that's going on in your life so that you can come back to your true self. And we often, you know, distract ourselves. We put things off or we ignore things and all of that. And then, but that's the thing. It's the thing that you need for you to really heal whatever it is you heal and whatever it's for you to get the clarity that you need to get for you to come back full circle. And you know, and you see it happening to people. It's like watching a really bad movie. You're like, oh, come on, go in the woods. Come on, back it up. But you know, all you can do is just like really just focus on yourself and you know, bring that energy forward. So I love that you mentioned that.
It's
I have
so
a
true.
question.
No,
Oh,
go ahead. Of
well, I
course,
want to
Chimdi.
ask because
Chimdi has a question. You mean
you know
Chimdi
I'm
has a
gonna cut in.
question?
I love to ask. I love to ask a question, and I'd love to hear both of y'all thoughts on this. Because what I found as I go on my healing journey is I love the highs. I love when the pain has been released, and I'm just like, this is great. And then every time, because there's more space, something else comes up, and I intellectually know that this is what we're doing here, but every time it is genuinely so uncomfortable. So like, how do you all deal with it's like to be in a job and really be like, I've got a child, I can't leave, but you know you have to. Like, I feel like it's so easy to talk about it. Like, what are the practices that y'all leverage when you're like, shit, you have another healing moment coming up? And it really feels like a lot.
Go ahead, Francis.
Oh man, sometimes I feel so ancient. No, really, you know, it's been a long time. Um, you know, when you go through an expansion, regardless of the things that come forward, you know you don't want to go back. Like this,
Mm.
so that's one thing that keeps me moving forward. Another thing is just spiritual practices, whether it's meditation, whether it's grounding with like fae or something, or it's just moving slower. But I think a lot of it is accepting that life will bring you things and not to hurt you or bring you down.
Mm.
Painful as it feels like it's not there to do that. And when you reframe that old narrative, you almost like, and when you're in conflict, you almost kind of watch yourself in the conflict. Just like I had this whole like situation coming here and it was wild. And the old me would have gotten so pissed off. The old me would have like interacted with people in their own wounding, stuff like that. But I wouldn't say new me, but like the more expansive self was just kind of watching me in action. And when you've done enough healing, when you engage, and I said this in class, when you've done enough healing, when you engage vibrations, the vibrational frequency just doesn't feel right. Like it doesn't
Mm.
that angry. It doesn't even feel right for me to raise my voice. It doesn't even feel right to engage in this conflict because I've gone so far. You know what I mean? And I feel so settled and at peace with so many different things. It doesn't even register in my head to even behave in.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of my experiences. Of course, always with me and Francis, always go back to plant medicines. But my experience, for instance, in Cambo, when I'm taking Cambo medicine and you're purging, right? And you feel hot and you feel all these things. What I realized through those is just like, right, the emotion is energy in motion and it's just trying to get out. And now I've approached these in a different way. Like instead of working against my emotions like I used to work against my anxiety. Like, fuck you, here you are showing up again. Oh my God, here it goes again. It's gonna take over. I'm like, oh, this is the part where we do this. And it's almost like once you work together with something, it completely transmutes it, you know, and it's the same thing. I'm like, this is the part where I throw up. Okay, let's do this.
Oh.
Let's do this. Let's do this. I'm hanging on, ready. And I know it will be over. I know this will pass. And I also know it has a purpose because it's my medicine. So then I start to see everything else. It's like, new medicine coming in. And honestly, I find that once people start like waking up, once you start like, you know, the Matrix again, we can use that. Waking up, you're actually going to have more of those in a row for a while. Expansion, expansion, expansion. Right? Yeah, exactly.
It's so exhausting.
Yep. You're like, what did I sign up for? Yes, you did. You did. You did. Because before, it was so much easier. I was just telling my partner this today. It's so much easier to be asleep. I'll be honest. It's easier.
Sleeping is great. I love that.
But you get a little bit of like insight, then it becomes exhausting.
Yes, it's both, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so true. So I like this. I wanted to ask this question to Chimdi. I prepared for you, by the way. And you know why I prepared for you? I prepared for you because you are the one person I met in a long time that has asked really good questions. Really good questions. We were having a night in Costa Rica where people were telling like their truths. And we would pitch all the questions to Chimdi because we're like, nobody's going to ask it like her. So I had to prepare for this because she gets like to the root of everything.
I'm curious.
I'm curious to know, even for both of you, like if you see how we go through different seasons of our life, right? Like what's this season of your life bringing you? Like what's the flavor of this season for you?
Well, I think for me, and I hope this answers the question, it's one of you can feel comfortable and you can relax in how much love and support you have, you know, and I didn't understand to the extent that I was trying to do it all by myself and felt that I had to be able to do it all by myself. And I think that's part of the reason why it took me so long to quit is that I was like, how am I going to make this work? Not how is God going to help me and how can I relax into an endless number of resources. I can't even name them now that will hold me up when it happens. And so I feel like I'm constantly having challenges and trying to do it by myself and friends are just appearing. I'm clearly calling out spiritually, like I need help, but I'm like, I'm doing it by myself. And then the help comes and I'm like, thank you so much. And they're like, of course. So that has been a big one. And then the other part has been honesty, that transparency and that vulnerability. And I think it was uncomfortable for me to watch that video I made because it was so long. Like it literally made me uncomfortable to be that honest about dark parts of myself that I wasn't proud of. And I know that is the thing that people like and respond to. And I think I've gotten better at it and it is a practice, but that I have to keep reminding myself, like, that is beautiful. You know, it's very, very beautiful.
That is what people are looking for. That's what I got when I watched those videos. I was like, give me some more of that because I feel like people are craving that authenticity of what it's like on this journey, right? No more just aspirational kind of like Instagram photos where everything looks fluffy and nice, but inside you feel, you know, something different. So I think that's what I love about it because it's going to just inspire people to be more authentic, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a rarity. People don't see that. So when they see it, they're just, whoa. People almost want to emulate, you know, by you being your authentic self, it inspires others. Okay, I can really step into myself and there's chain reaction.
Well, and similar to your kind of thing of like just relaxing into it. The other day, one of my like intentions during the full moon, guys, because I'm so spiritual. Because I'm so spiritual, guys.
Saturn return. Listen, there were a lot of events happening in the sky, in the spirit, in the energy.
It's so true. But you know what I was saying to myself that really surprised myself? I was like, how do I lean into more pleasure? Right? Because I noticed that while I do have this beautiful life and that I love it and it's wild and it's fun, it's free, I still feel like sometimes I hit this point, this old belief that I can have some pleasure, but not all of it, right? not too much. This idea of too much, whatever the hell that means. So I was challenging myself, how do I make more things more pleasurable? How do I like really sink into that? Whether it's like sinking into pleasure with my body or pleasure with just even on a walk, pleasure with like how I enjoy conversations or just how I enjoy menial tasks. And I was like, that's a challenge for me because this world out there will have you believe otherwise. Because you'll see a lot of people in their bodies don't really walk around with much pleasure. And you're out there in New York City and there's horns, there is fire, sirens, there's all kinds of stuff that makes you wanna need to go do yoga for 5 hours.
Yes. Construction at 2:30 in the morning. Like, I understand that the streets are clear now, but some of us is trying to sleep, you know, on a weeknight. I'm like, okay.
So yeah.
I love that. I think for me, it's a couple of things are happening, and the first thing is being more authentic to myself. So bringing more wholeness and integrity with how I'm showing up in all areas of my life. So bringing those pieces back to wholeness, and also I'm kind of in this like I'm no more doubting myself and my capabilities thing. Like noticing I'm stepping into myself more and not second guessing anything and just kind of moving forward with it, which a few months ago I'd always like overthink things or like, worry if something's going to work or anything. And I think the difference is, when you land in your purpose or when you really like connect or align in something that you're creating, there's no room to really second guess. And that's first for me, right? It really is a first for me where everything kind of feels like I got like the green light from the divine stars or something. And it's like, if I'm here, it's me to question it. Because to me, in my mind, it's already been kind of like written. It's like I was born to do X, Y, Z. So why am I questioning it? So I'm going with that flow this year. I don't know about like next year. I don't know about, but at this moment, that's where I'm at, and I'm enjoying the journey. Really.
Yeah. And I saw a big Chimdi. I saw a big shift in her when her and I did with our mentor. We had a 2-week kind of immersion, and after her ayahuasca ceremony, let me tell you, Frances was on some shit. She was like, no more playing small, like all this stuff. Like she, like me, I'm a fire sign, so I was like, excuse me, are you speaking my language? But it was just such a joy to be around her because I felt so much freedom in her body, but it was motivating to me. And it goes to show, like, it's like once one person's a catalyst, then it just fires off, right? Like it just keeps firing off. So if you start hanging around those people, then you become that, and it just explodes.
100%. I heard it described like we all know what's going on. There's a awakeness of consciousness in all of our bodies, and that's why when you're around someone who's more conscious than you, it immediately brings light to all the like hidden structures that you're like, oh, I'm operating in these very particular ways. That's not me. And like you were saying, we were talking about earlier, seeing it in someone else and feeling like, not even just seeing it, but then feeling it in their presence. And you're like, ooh, I feel this in my body. And I feel the difference when I'm not around them. How do I make it so that actually more of me is like that too? And I love that.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah. It was a fun ride. I was living next door to her, also bothering her, as you know, Chimdi, my sassy ass. She's an introvert and I'm an extrovert. I'm knocking on her door every day, like, what are we gonna do today? What are we gonna do today? Huh? What is going on?
She's like, stay inside. Is what we're doing today.
She's like, I'm not that motivated, but okay.
That's that balance.
It's true. It's a good balance. I have another question. What I feel like, so this word sovereignty has meant a lot to me in the last couple of years. I've been meditating on like, what does sovereignty mean for me? And it's a path, it's a journey, right? It just means like, how do I govern Lily? How does Lily govern Lily versus anything else outside of myself? Yeah. And I think my question for both of you is like, what what do you think people misunderstand on this journey is like once you do start writing your own path, right? Not from the narratives of your parents, not from the narratives of your teachers, not from the narratives of the news media. Once you start writing that, what do you think people misunderstand about people who kind of are, for the lack of a better word, doing it their own way, carving it their own way, and not necessarily just going along with a 9 to 5 or not necessarily going along with what they were before?
I think, especially if people are operating from fear, which is really that, my understanding is that love is the only real thing, and then there's levels, right? So fear is really just like, wow, what you're doing seems like it'd be incredible, and I wish I had that for me. Like, I love that. I'm scared. So fuck you and your choices. And I think if they're looking at someone who's maybe chosen a different path and they're saying it's selfish, I think what I would say is that, and let me know if this is how y'all have experienced it, but ultimately, the more you heal, the more you realize our interconnectedness and that everything we do is for all of us. Like, we're not doing it just for us. And it wouldn't be, the things that are just for us aren't even like, there's studies that show, like, if you give someone $1 and you say you want to spend it on me or spend it on someone else, they feel more lasting happiness when they spend it on somebody else. So the more I heal, I've gotten to a bunch of fun things that were just for me. I love being in Costa Rica just for, I loved all that stuff. The stuff where it's actually about how am I healing so that we're all more motivated, inspired, conscious, whatever else. A lot of the stuff around healing my trauma, because I don't want to be out here in relationships and friendships recreating trauma structures and hurting myself and others unconsciously because I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, that's because I care about us, because I know there isn't a separate, it's just me and us. So unless I do my work, we all suffer, and that's how it is for all of us. So I feel like it's not a selfish thing for us to break free from systems that don't serve us, because that's us saying, that's how much I love you, is that I'm willing to go through this very uncomfortable journey at times because I believe it's what's going to make all of us better.
Wow. I love that. That's how much I love you. Wow. That's a mic drop right there. Francis always has this quote, well, it's a Rumi quote, right? Like, or is it Ram Dass? We're all just like walking each other home. Yeah.
It really, that's what we're all doing. There'd be less conflict, but the world is how it is supposed to be. And I think the misconception is that, the misconception is feeling like maybe you lack certain compassion about certain things, like you don't feel things because you're not also getting certain narratives. And so sometimes, I like to observe folks, talk less, watch more. And, when people think like, oh, why aren't you like really upset about this? And don't you see these things here and you see that happen there? And it's not that I was listening to Abraham Hicks today, and, he was saying it's not that we lack compassion. We have compassion, but the compassion comes from love and not from like pain, anger, or like wanting to do something that creates more conflict. And so there's a difference from there, because when you come from that place, that means in my mind, you're coming from a trauma-filled space, right? Because either you're trying to feel something or you're feeling triggered by something because something lacked for you as you were developing all these things. So it gets very dicey. I think also people like, you're just hippie out here wearing no, like out here just floating around. My aunt was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, can't explain it. So there's so many misconceptions, and I don't think it's a place to have a discussion of like what it is I'm doing or how I'm being, because you're not even in the same frequency to understand it, right? But as you go off and own self-discovery, then maybe we can come back and have a conversation about it. But I can't really have a full-fledged, authentic conversation about that kind of journey because you're not even there yet.
Yeah.
I heard something, and I'd be curious to know how y'all think about it. And it was actually, I was reading, I don't know, pronounce his name, Thich Nhat Hanh. And he was talking about how to communicate and about how, yeah, you communicate with people at the level they're at using the language that they have. So it's not that you would tell, like he tells a story of like being in like a museum and there's this like mummy that's laid out and this little girl's looking at it like, am I going to be lying dead on a table one day? And he's just like, no, because that is the response in that moment. So even though, of course, we all pass away and that might like you basically read the room and you give the answer that actually makes sense for where they're asking the question at. So part of me wonders, like, is that actually a measure of skill that we can meet people where they're at and still communicate what we can communicate to them in a way that can resonate? Or is it just a matter of they kind of won't be able to understand, so it's better to just let them go on their way?
Yeah, that's true. I think it's a little bit of both, because I also sometimes find, well, what energy do you have? And sometimes, like, you know, I've watched Tahira, our mentor, a lot. Sometimes she just, like Frances, similar too, just won't say anything and just will be there to listen, right? So she reminded me that, like, people will feel your energy just by you sitting there in your full presence, in your fullness. You don't even have to say anything. So maybe their words don't match and maybe they're still working out their shit, but there's something that they took away from just the way you stood there in your ground, not needing even to say much, not even needing to navigate with them, not even needing to get caught up in, like, you know how I see it as tornadoes sometimes. Just like, you know, earlier we were talking about like the tornado of life out there. It's like, okay, how do I first stay, you know, like solid here and not get up in an internal tornado? But then, and then that translates to like, you know, this could get dicey depending on what I say. So I'm actually just going to like hold space for this person. I'm actually just going to like, you know, be in my, you know, fullness, I guess what it is. And I think that can be tricky sometimes. It can be tricky. I'll be honest. Sometimes it's mood. sometimes it's sometimes it's really being able to read the room. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Lily. I think it is a little bit of both. Because I think like there's certain levels to awareness. You know, there are some people who are able to pick that up. And then there are some people who are able to pick that up even more and not say something, right? So we can pick it up. And there are folks like Tahira who just like doesn't say anything.
Doesn't say anything.
Yeah. And it's interesting because people have certain viewpoints and perspectives, and you just honor that. You know, ago I'd probably be a little bit irritated by that because I'm trying to pull you into my viewpoint and perspective. But now it's like, yeah, that is your reality. That's true for you, right? That's and I gotta honor that.
Yeah. And that, yeah, hearing both of you, it reminds me of like honoring that person's journey and releasing control of even thinking someone else's journey is your responsibility. And I think, especially when you first start, I feel like I'm still very early in my journey. But I feel like when you first start to learn about the stuff, it's so exciting and it changes your life. So you're like, hey, everyone, did you know? And you see someone making mistakes. You're like, no, don't do it like that. Do it like how I do it. And they're like, fuck, like, leave me, like, yeah. I didn't ask you. And like, I'm in a supermarket. And I'm like, no, but let me tell you. And yeah, it's just like, it's not my job. But you just want to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I call it? It's like the Jehovah Witness phase, where you go knocking on doors, you know? You just go knocking on doors and stuff, right? I get it. Like, to me, because I'm a sharer, I'm a whatever. So it's like there's that phase, but then it's like you said, you're like, who am I to be God? Who am I to take on God's job? God didn't be like, hey, Lily, you're the special one.
You busy Saturday? Like,
it's like, you know, I know you're a Leo and all. I get that. But, you know, mind your own mane, you know? So, yeah, I get that part.
Chimdi, what do you love about being on this journey? And then what do you
Well, I had a moment. I was getting ready to join the live, and I got a whole tripod set up, and I was 2 minutes after our start time. I was like, I'm going to be late. And then I had this moment where I was like, we're just doing this for fun. And then I was like, Chimdi, everything you do is for fun. And I was like,
Uh,
why? Hold on. Because it's true. I've had such a beautiful day and it's all been fun. And there are, of course, there's like, I've got some admin I need to do and I'm putting that off. So there's parts that are less fun, but to have so much of my life be for joy, like it's dedicated to joy. And I don't believe, because I think that's the thing is like the people who are still in the kind of traditional, especially the 9 to 5 system, genuinely believe, because I was one of them, you have to. Like, it's not like, they're like, I mean, I wish I could quit everything and follow and travel the world like you did, Chimdi, but I have to do this. And
mhm.
you really believe it. And it feels so, like, it really feels like releasing the chains of bondage to be like, oh, I actually don't have to do anything. Like, I can do whatever I want. And it's incredible. And there's no limit. There's no limit. You can just keep adding things. Like, I think I want to be on a reality show. NDA. And you're like, okay, let's see how that goes. Like you're just constantly like, and it's so cool. So that's my favorite part.
Uh,
Mm.
I love it. My partner's really good at that. And meeting her at the beginning, somebody used to get up and like, okay, well, can't stay in bed for like too long. Now I'm much better at it, but she just flows all the time.
Mm.
Admirable to watch that because that's how, if you think about kids, they just do what they want, what they feel in the moment, right? They say what they want, they do what they want, they come from a place of joy. It's
Mm.
all about that.
Mm.
So I love
Well,
that.
and if you think about it, like you have I can still have compassion for that thought process that even still pops up for me because even like even as early as preschool or kindergarten, that's when we start getting the regiment. That's when we start getting the no, don't do that. No, that's not allowed. Even just like you get a actual bell and a scripted amount of time to play, right? And so if that happens all the way to your 9 to 5, you're still going to have remnants of your own like inner mean girl, like whatever guard in you, right? Like there's this, and that person pops up in me all the time too. Like still like, you got to be on schedule. You got to do this, you got to do that. But I hear it more now in other people's language and it makes me
Mm.
mindful of my own. Just like you said, Chimdi, I hear a lot of people say, I wish I could do that, but da da da. Or I wish I could travel. Like, Frances gets this a lot because she's in a different country every, 30 to 90 days. And people are like, I wish I could, but whatever. And it's interesting because if you hear her story, like odds were against her, right? So but you realize, oh, okay, that's where you're at. That's where you're at. I wish you well on that path.
Mm.
And we've all been there. But it also makes me more mindful because then I have to stop myself when I start in the shoulds or I wish I could or I can't because and just more mindful of that.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I still do it too sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
why? I'm like, I don't need to do nothing.
Exactly.
I'll choose to do X, Y, you know,
Mm.
and just fall from that place. So yeah, it's
And I'd love to hear from both of you because I'm not in like I'm not a committed, like, me and this man and this woman, and so being in a conscious spiritual relationship, what's that like? Is it great?
Well, what's interesting because I've been in a 7-year relationship and this is my longest relationship and I am not the same person who he met.
mm,
So I went through a 1 to 2 year process where we had to rough through a part where are we willing to get to know each other in a different way?
mm,
It's like I had to divorce the idea who I was, he had to divorce who he was, and we had to find another way. And we both had to be committed to that. And I would say it was like a year and a half of, I don't want to say hell because that's really intense, but that was so tough. But it brought together so much more intimacy because like who I was 7 years ago was not ready to be as vulnerable, not ready to be as like open and honest. And like who I am now is So it's almost exciting now. I get to date somebody new. I get to be with somebody new. But I honestly think both have to be committed. And so, like, we are literally, everybody always says we are the yin and the yang. Like, he is the, he is the, like, by the book professor, kind of, he'll keep me grounded. And I am living in the cosmos, y'all. I am flying high. So it's like a great little, like, oh, okay. So we find the balance in the middle. But yeah. What about you, Francis?
And listen, my partner came into this relationship very whole, very secure to her spirituality. It was me playing catch up for a little bit, and still sometimes playing catch up. Sometimes I come back with her with some insight, and she's like, "Mm-hmm."
She's like, I already knew that. I already knew that. Yeah.
She's very patient with me. She's always, she already developed her relationship with God. She's very in her sovereign space. And so that was a challenge for me because I thought I was being authentic in the beginning. And I was out of alignment on so many levels. So I had to like really get into that, back into therapy, all of that, right? So right now we're still, there are moments we still try to find our harmony and alignment. And she's very patient with me. I appreciate her. But it's beautiful to be able to have those types of conversations with somebody, and it's beautiful to be able to know that somebody is as devoted to them becoming the better version of themselves as I am. Because when there's a discrepancy in that, it's hard for that to move forward. Like, and it's so important to know what your values are in certain things.
Yes.
Because when there's certain core values that cannot budge when it comes to in order for growth to happen, in order for that love to really develop. And there are some core values that we really share. And so I think that's what's really been helpful. And
yeah. 100%. Like, that's something that we like. It's almost like you do backwards. It's not like when we were first dating, we were like, oh, what are your core values? Let's see if they actually match. It was like, now it's to the point where we're redoing that. We're like, oh, wait, what are your core values? But if growth wasn't one of his core values, I would have been gone.
Yeah.
I would have been out of there. It wouldn't have tested. So like growth and connection are huge for me. Communication and joy, like playfulness, is huge for me. So if we didn't have a few of those that are bonding us, I would have already been gone. I think there's some on his end that he's trying to strengthen, and then I'm trying to strengthen some so that we're coming even closer. But yeah. It's a whole relationship discussion, huh?
All right.
I'm just curious because y'all both mentioned partners at different times, and I was like, wow, that sounds awesome.
Well, is that also the season of your lives? Are you up on Tinder? Are you like?
And you know I'm in New York City now. Listen, I heard the thing to do is you take yourself to Wall Street and you put on a nice little dress and you just hang out and you just let one of them hedge fund managers buy you a boat. That's my understanding.
Oh, not even
just a whole boat. So that if you see me on a private jet, it's because I went to Wall Street and I got me a man. Girl. But yeah, I do think this season is one of like, the vulnerability and the openness. And like, I'm the kind of person who likes to, I enjoy my sovereignty. And if a relationship is getting in the way, I got to get the fuck up out of there. So I have left relationships because I'm like, I got to go. I got to be free. And what I'm realizing is like everything, commitment and staying is a practice. And if you haven't had it modeled, and if you haven't experienced and built it up as a muscle for yourself, it's going to be hard. And so I'm actually in the season of like, okay, let me explore what it looks like to not run away in front of every challenge. And I think that's all of the healing journey. It's like another challenge, or as you said, another gift for growth. And we run it, or are we staying? And so I think a lot of my life, of course, but also this healing journey in the last year or so has prepared me and is preparing me to like practice not running from the hard things, practice facing the challenges as they come up.
Yeah, I
I
know.
think you're gonna call in not only somebody so authentic because that's who you are right now. You're gonna call in somebody who's gonna fund all your art projects, who's gonna fund. Yeah, I'm telling you, like it's possible. Let me just tell you. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm calling in for you.
Oh God, I gotta think big. That's why it's important to hang out with expansive people. They expand your mind.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up because, there's the false narrative, like the true gold medal is independence when it's interdependence. When you can lean on and then allow someone to lean on you, like
Mm,
that's the hard part.
It is
That's
tough.
that's the balance that needs to be mastered, like
mhm.
true interdependence. And so proud of you for taking that on. You know what I mean? That's gotta enrich your life in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. What you said reminded me of something. I want to like make a video or talk about it because I feel like it was powerful when I heard it, and every time someone hears it, it's the first time it strikes them. Which is something Thomas Hubel said, which is he asked us this question of how beautiful do you feel when you're asking for help? Like how beautiful do you feel when you need something? Yeah,
Oh,
and like sit with that.
Um, I'm gonna
yeah,
write that down.
yeah. Send that to me, right?
Yeah, send that to us. How beautiful do you feel when you're asking for
That's so
help?
beautiful. I'm like, oh,
I'm gonna start
Yeah.
asking all
Lily's
kinds
face.
of people for help now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a kitty cat face. Oh, warmed my heart.
You did.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you doing this live, Chimdi. I really appreciate you just like joining in to my
Yeah,
shenanigans. I knew
Yes.
you would bring like so much warmth to this. I got a 5K to run, y'all. Like I'm in Santa Barbara and I'm gonna run in this 5K. My boyfriend's doing a swim run. I'm just gonna do the run part and clap for him.
beautiful.
You're not just doing the run part. You are running a 5K
Like,
by your own volition. No
it's
one's making you do that.
That's true.
5K. That's awesome.
That's true.
Yeah.
Good job, girl. Thank you for inviting me. This was so fun. And I knew when we met in Costa Rica, I was like, this is not the last we're going to see of each other.
No,
So I'm
no, it's
like,
cool. Plus, you
affirmed.
got footage on me and stuff, so you
Oh,
know
yeah.
you could you can bribe me.
It's so
Francis,
lovely
believe
to
it or
meet.
not, she has me mouthing off. I
Oh,
was
It was
talking all kinds of shit.
so hard to capture that, the one time you were doing it. It was good to meet you too.
yeah, for sure.
Yes, thank you for bringing us together, Lily. And I look forward to like hearing more about. We didn't even talk about the plant medicine stuff and all the stuff of your journey. So I feel like there's
Yes.
so much more to learn. I'm excited to
Yeah,
learn about it.
we can do another live one of these days. We can talk all the time, and maybe we can even talk about any of your experiences with plant medicine or in that realm
Oh,
or
the
interest.
whole episode.
Oh, well then we got
Yeah.
another live.
Yeah,
We got
another
another
life.
Yeah,
live,
Stay
y'all.
tuned, guys. Stay tuned, okay?
Stay
yeah,
tuned.
yeah.
All right. Good night.
All right.
Bye.